Her&EU, a European podcast on gender equality, brought to you by the Martens Centre with Loredana Teodorescu.
Hello everybody and welcome to this new episode of Her&EU, a podcast on gender equality and women's role in the society. I am Loredana Teodorescu and our special guest of today is Oleksandra Matviichuk, Ukrainian human rights lawyer, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2022 for the amazing work she's doing with the NGO Center for Civil Liberties she leads. So it's really a pleasure and it's really an honor to have you here, Oleksandra.
Thank you for the invitation.
Oleksandra, I would start from your work. So you became a prominent Ukrainian voice, advocating for freedom, for democracy, for human rights. And I was wondering how your work is impacted by the war. How do you link your work now with ambitions to peace and to what is happening in your country?
We was the first human rights organization who sent mobile groups to Crimea and then to eastern regions in Ukraine in 2014 when the war started. So I'm documenting war crimes for 11 years already. But when large-scale war started in 2022, we faced with enormous amount of crimes. And it's very difficult from professional and from personal point of view, because we are documenting not just violations of Geneva and Hague Conventions, we are documenting human pain. And it's very difficult to deal with such enormous amount of human pain on a daily basis.
I can only imagine. And I think that it's really important what you're trying to do, like giving a human dimension to war. War is not just about drones, military attacks, number of people dying. It's really about people. And I was wondering how and why did you decide to become a human rights lawyer, and how being a woman has affected your decision and then your work?
When I was a child studying in school, I got paintings with Soviet dissidents, and suddenly I appeared in a circle of fantastic people, very noble people, people who say what they think and do what they say, people who had bravery to stood up their voice against the entire totalitarian Soviet machine. Dissidents' movements were severely repressed in Soviet Union. Part of people were killed, part of people were jailed, part of people were sent to forcible psychological treatment. The families were ruined and separated. The careers were stopped, but these people didn't give up. And being a child, I was so inspired by this example that I decided that I will study law and I will continue this fight for freedom and for human dignity.
Which is great. And being a woman has affected somehow your decision or your work?
Oh, sure. There is still this ceiling which women, even in modern world, feel, especially in countries which are in transit like Ukraine. So we are going on the right direction, and gender equality become more and more important as a topic of agenda, how to transfer the country. But still, there are a lot of things which we women have to fight for, not to provide these problems as inheritance to our daughters.
Yes, indeed. And you were telling me also, and I find this very interesting, the fact that sometimes being a woman makes it harder because you are more, sensitive. But in your case, this was really your strength. And I think that this is very much true.
Yes, and this is about empathy. When I was student of the law faculty, I decided that I will never do something connected with criminal law because I have this empathy to people and it will harm me. But now I'm doing something which connected not just with criminal, but with international humanitarian law. I work on daily basis with atrocities. And what I found, and it was very interesting and surprising for me, that this empathy, which I treated as my vulnerability, in practice turned as my strength, as a real source of strength, which provide me a possibility to move further.
Yeah, and I think that you are inspiring many people with the work you are doing. So we are meeting here at the margins of the Ukrainian Recovery Conference. And you said recovery should have people at the center. So how do you see recovery of your country and how to get there? I mean, is it too early to speak about recovery, or what are the steps or the priorities?
What people don't understand that we speak about recovery not after the war, because we have no luxury to postpone it. We have no idea, either we're in the end of the war, in the middle of the war, or just in the beginning of the war. And this war has not just military dimension, but also economic dimension as well. And Russia deliberately hit residential buildings, schools, churches, museums, hospitals, plants, factories, bridges. Russia tried to ruin the economic life of our country just to break people's resistance and occupy it. So for us to survive, we must to start recovery now. It's not about future, it's about present.
Indeed. And which priorities would you see for this recovery? So where should we start?
We have to see recovery from the human-centered approach. Look into this horrible picture of destruction in Mariupol or Bucha. People, when they hear recovery, they first start to imagine the reconstruction of bridges, residential buildings, and other objects of civil infrastructure. It's essential, but we have to put people in the center of all recovery process and not limited to the large-scale constructions. We have to think how to provide opportunities for people returned to destroyed territories, how to provide programs of support of victims of war crimes, how to restore environment which is badly damaged by this war, how to help Ukrainian business who lost their assets, like generally how to return breath to the local economy through the people. So people have to be in the center of all the recovery process.
And speaking of people, I'm thinking now on the role of women. So we know that especially in Ukraine, women are really taking the lead. They are driving the change. They are working in terms of community, strengthening their resilience. They became ambassadors of their own countries. How do you think that this can be then reflected in key decisions about the future? What kind of space do you see for women in really shaping the future of the country, also in more formal spaces?
You know, there are a lot of fantastic Ukrainian women in different fields of society. Ukrainian women are fighting in Ukraine armed forces. Ukrainian women take important political decisions. Ukrainian women document war crimes. Ukrainian women coordinate huge civil initiatives. Women are in the far front of this battle for freedom and democracy because bravery has no gender. And that is why we must provide the full access of women to all stages of this recovery process, so on stages of developing and designing, on stages of implementation, stages of civil and other kind of control, and so on and so forth. And this is not a mechanistic equalization. It's just respect to the role which women are playing.
So women are playing already a huge role, and this should be then reflected in all the upcoming steps, I would say. And I'm thinking now also the role of the European Union. So what is happening in Ukraine, of course, relaunched the whole discussion about enlargement, and Ukraine is also taking all the steps to get ready to have a future in the European Union, which is very complex because it's doing this while has been attacked. So what role is playing the European Union, and how do you see the future of Ukraine in the European Union?
11 years ago, millions of people in Ukraine stood up their voice against the Russian corrupt authoritarian regime who stopped Euro integration process. So millions of people came to the streets and start peaceful protest. They fought just for a chance to build the country where the rights of everybody are protected, government is accountable, judiciary is independent, and police do not beat students who are peacefully demonstrating. And we paid the highest price just for this chance, because more than 100 peaceful protesters were brutally gunning down in the center of Kyiv. So probably with only one nation who provide our own blood, because these people died under the flag of European Union.
Yeah.
And we are very sincere in our desire to return to European civilized dimension. And this has to be the movement from the both corners. So Ukrainians are doing step forward, and the European Union has also doing to step forward to Ukrainians.
Of course. And what would be your key message to EU officials, politicians?
It's very difficult to conduct democratic reforms even during the peaceful time. And they live in the countries which spent decades, some even centuries, to build democratic state institutions. We have just 11 years, and we have to do these democratic reforms not during peaceful time, but during the time of war, and last 3 years during the time of large-scale war. So it's difficult, and we need support. We need support because success of Ukraine will be success of the whole European Union.
I very much agree. So maybe one final point on the current situation. Can you update us a little bit on how do you see the current situation? Because it looks like the war is even escalating, so it's even becoming harder and harder.
It's paradoxically and very a bit of irony that when President Trump started peace talks, the war just escalating, because unfortunately Putin doesn't want peace. Putin wants to achieve his historical goals, and he started this large-scale war not because he wants to occupy just one more part of Ukrainian land. He started this large-scale war because he wants to occupy and destroy the whole country and move further. He sees Ukraine like a bridge to Europe. He wants to forcibly restore Russian Empire, and it's visible that if he not be able to stop Putin in Ukraine, he will go further and attack next European countries. So I predict that the near future will be very difficult. But I know for sure that when you can't rely on the international system of peace and security, you can still always rely on people, because ordinary people have a much great impact that they can even imagine. Ordinary people can change the history.
And I have here in front of me a courageous, brave, strong woman. And I'm asking you, what gives you this strength, resilience, courage?
And first of all, it's a sense of responsibility, because I interviewed people who went through the hell, and I know for sure that they need to restore not just their broken lives, broken families, broken visions of the future, but their broken beliefs that justice is possible, even though delayed in time. So this sense of responsibility is driving me, that you have to fight for peaceful and democratic future for these people. But also, I know, even very rationally, that our future is not just unclear, it's also not written. This means that we still have a chance to fight for future which we want for us and for our children. And probably with my individual efforts, I can't just create this beautiful future, but without my individual efforts, the beautiful future will never be created.
Oleksandra, thank you. Thank you very much for your work, engagement, passion, determination. You are already contributing to a different future. And thank you for this inspiring conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Martin Center for making this podcast possible. Thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for a new episode.
That was today's episode of Her&EU. Subscribe to our podcast for more.